Last year was the earthquake that shook and completely dismantled our house of cards. This year, 2021, is going to be the wind of change that scatters those pieces irrevocably. Hi everyone, welcome back to Metanoia. My name is Carrie Jane, and today we're going to be talking about the year 2021, the 5 global year in numerology, sometimes also called the universal year. And I'm titling this video as a forecast video, but forecast just isn't the right word for these kinds of things because numerology is not like the weather. You can't really predict what's going to happen based on the numbers. I know a lot of people will try to sell that idea, a lot of people who especially use it for things like the lottery and etc. But really, what numerology does is basically illustrate the undercurrent of that year, the theme of that year. Of course, sometimes, depending on what's going on in the world, that does translate very literally. And to my surprise, 2020 translated in that way based off of the 2020 forecast video that I did. If you guys haven't watched it yet, it might be good to just take a look at that first, because understanding last year will help us understand this year. But I am also going to be talking about what I mentioned in that video because, yeah, like I said, it was just shockingly straightforward and accurate and true to what happened. It is not very often that you see a year be that literal. So in the future, just know that it doesn't usually work out like that. So I watched the 2020 video that I did last year and literally made a list of things that I mentioned or said that actually happened or just generally came true. One is the home. Okay, so before it was about foundations, about planning, about organization, etc. But also I mentioned that it's like the home number. So think Cancer energy. And we literally couldn't leave our houses this year. We were stuck in the home constantly. So it's like anything that we could do was usually somehow based around the home. I wrote here to a time to study. We all learned how to make sourdough bread this year. We all developed new skills, I think, in one way or another, just because that's what happens when you're idle in your home and you can't leave and you have to kind of switch your focus, which is certainly something that we did a lot in 2020. And a lot of these things translate to, creature comforts, which is something that I mentioned as well. The feeling that something new was starting. Like a 1 year. We definitely entered a very, very different atmosphere this year, for sure. Okay, 4. This is list number 4 on this little list I made here. Okay, pivotal change and obstacles. Need I say more? I'm not going to. It's obvious. Confrontation is what I also mentioned in that video. So that came from the double zeros, as I elaborated in the past. And I talked mainly about how this shook our egos, or it was going to, and then it did. How it revealed selfishness, greed, and false narratives. So what I'm going to be talking about in this video is probably going to be a lot more serious and a lot more real than you guys are used to with channels like this. I mean, some of you kind of get it because I'm typically kind of like that, especially in my reflection videos, but this is not going to be like, this is how you manifest your dreams kind of video, which is unfortunately like a lot of what is out there right now. Instead, I am here to be your guide through the deepest hellhole that is planet Earth. I am here to help you look at all of us, look at ourselves, which is going to be a lot of next year. Stay tuned. We're going to be looking at everything so that it can be transformed. You cannot change anything without looking at it. You cannot transform anything without looking at it. Yes, there is a destiny, a beautiful destiny that each and every one of us have. But toxic positivity, not being honest with yourself, ignoring things that are right in our face is going to create a hysteria, as it already has been, as we've already seen in the past year, that will inadvertently keep us away from that place that we all want to go to. So this video might not be for you if you just want to hear the generic, here's 4 easy steps to get all the money that you want in your dream house. Like, this is not that kind of video. This is a very honest examination of the world right now. And especially while I'm making this video, we're in an extreme points of chaos and just uncertainty. We know something is going to happen. We just don't know what it is. It's a lot of tension. It's a lot of stress. And yet some of us, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I've crossed that point of concern and more into like, whatever comes, I can handle it. It's going to be okay. And I know that whatever comes, I have the tools to deal with it as it comes. And the 5-year in its own way can be a blessing to what we're seeing right now, as long as we know what to do with it, as long as we can do everything that I've set up into this point, be honest with ourselves, really look at what's going on here. I digress a little bit, but moving forward. Okay, so I wrote here how when things become obvious, people sink deeper into denial and are not willing to let go an inconvenient truth. I have been saying this word in my head for months now because it's like what's going on right now is there is a very inconvenient truth about the world that we're living in right now, and everyone is dealing with it in a slightly different way. But with everything going on, we're extremely polarized now. And we see people who are willing to look at that truth, accept it, figure out how to work with it and move forward. And then we have people who are not willing to let go of the old, or they sense that something very real is wrong about this world, and they have been manipulated to be in this place of distortion where lies are truth and truth is fiction, because it is very easy to take people who are emotional for very good reasons about something and convince them of a lie. If you study psychology, you can see it. If you look at history, it's there in our faces. This has happened time and time and time again, over and over and over. Some of us will never learn, it seems, what is going on in this Earth story. Moving forward, expressing a desire for more people to walk in compassion is something that I mentioned in that video. The idea of shedding people, lost friendships, realizing you're in a different place than your peers. I was expressing how that's normal for this type of 00 energy. And that's exactly what we saw last year. We saw, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but there were people that I saw shedding friends that I never thought could. Like, I never thought they would leave that friend. I never thought they would put their morals and themselves before their friend groups because their identity was too tied into that friend group. And I saw that happen because it really came down to, unfortunately, what we're seeing here, and what I'm going to be talking a lot about in this video, is that it's no longer left-wing and right-wing, liberal or Republican, conservative, etc. You either care about other people or you don't. And I felt this as well with the inconvenient truth thing for a very long time, but we're seeing that play out. And I follow a YouTuber called Angel Souls, and she has put it in her own way. She thinks we're at war between people who feel and people who don't feel. And I also agree with this assessment, and I like the way she put it because often as well, people who are not capable of feeling, who are operating from a distorted place, are also very easily manipulated into believing lies. They are not operating from a place of love and compassion. They are operating from wherever they're operating from. And then this becomes this dichotomy that we're seeing right now. Okay, so I also said in that video the damage of ignoring problems, which is something that I already mentioned. Again, the inconvenient truth situation. I wrote that travel's not typical of the four. Guess what we did not do a lot of? I mentioned saving money, spending tactfully in that video. That would be useful in a year like we just had. Remaining calm. Not losing our heads over a situation. And the density of the four. At the very end, I did mention that this can be a challenging year. It can feel very dense, and certainly it was. And for a lot of people out there who are very empathic, I know many of you are, yes, this was just so much to move through. It was so much to process. But at the same time, if you're an empath like me, you kind of felt this coming. You didn't know what it was going to look like. I remember making that video. I remember making the 2020 forecast video and thinking, this is different. I don't know what it is, but it's different. And then I could not, though, in a million years have guessed that the world would have to deal with COVID, that this would be also the year, because of the pieces that were coming together, that we look dead in the eyes of our oppressors and have this movement be translated through the Black Lives Matter, through racial justice, through justice, period. And it should have happened exactly like that. Deep down, this is a class war, but it should be done exactly how it is going right now through the Black Lives Matter movement. So those are, I guess I wrote 12 things total, things that were very accurate in that video. And again, it doesn't normally happen like that, but I now want to go into, in retrospect of this, what was the 4-year. And yeah, I'm sorry that this video is going to be so long, and we're going to be spending so much time talking about last year, or this year rather, because I'm making this video in 2020, October of 2020, but it is necessary to understand 2021 and what we, not just what we can expect from 2021, but how we can understand it and use it best to get to where we need to be, wherever that is, individually, but most importantly, as a collective. So in retrospect, my numerological opinion of what happened last year was that COVID was a test on compassion. And we had 2 2s last year. 2 is the number of love. It's the number of sensitivity, of emotions, love, and compassion. And I'm like imagining 100 subscribers unsubscribing from my channel as I say this, because we're so divided right now and people seem incapable of change. But guess what? Next year is going to be a lot of fucking change, whether you like it or not. So buckle up. Anyway, COVID was a test on compassion. What do you do when you have no information? What do you do when you're not sure what's going on, how viruses work, how this virus in particular works, when the science just isn't there yet? When you have misinformation coming from every direction, when you have conflicting news, masks work, masks don't work. What do you do? That was the test. The test was on compassion. When you know nothing, what do you do? Well, what did we see? I wrote here, do you do everything in your power to help, to not be a part of the problem, even if there's just a tiny chance that it helps? Do you do that? Or do you instead focus on a comfortable scenario that fits with your lifestyle, that fits with your ideals, that fits with your opinion, your stories, your narrative, these things tied with the ego, and choose that it's just, I just don't like wearing a mask. So, and this person said that they don't really help much anyway, so why do that? You see what kind of dilemma comes up here? My immediate reaction was, wow, I don't know what's going on right now. And a lot of people had the same reaction. And I don't know about you guys, but if there's a 0.0001% chance that I'm not going to make someone sick by wearing a mask, for example, something that's very easy to do, I'm going to do that. That is the test on compassion and selflessness. Do you see what I'm getting at here? Instead, we saw a lot of people saying, oh, if they're overweight and sick and die, it's because they were overweight and they were sick and that's why they died. If you have an autoimmune disease you were born with, you must have done something wrong to have that physical ailment. Why didn't you manifest it away? You see where this becomes utterly insane? I hope you do, but if you can't see how that's utterly insane, literally nothing I say matters. I wrote here that this is lunacy, but when you start with a belief, it's very hard for people to change that belief. And then in order to feel right and be right, you have to follow that belief to the very, very end. And that's when you see this kind of insanity. People are operating from a distorted place. It's up to you to use these things that are happening in the world right now as a way to ascend or regress. Period. And that is also associated with the polarity of the two. And the 2020s, the 20s, this is a decade-long thing. This is not something that'll just happen one year and then the next year changes. This is a challenge that we're going to be facing the entire decade. Moving on to the 5-year now. Last year was the earthquake that shook and completely dismantled our house of cards. This year, 2021, is going to be the wind of change that scatters those pieces irrevocably. Same as the double 2 that we had from last year, we're going to see all that same stuff, as like I said, throughout this entire decade because of that. But now we have that additional 1. So, what does this mean? there's a few questions that we need to ask with this new installment. I wrote here. One is, how are we going to acknowledge sovereignty? Because the number one is about independence, individuality, taking action, okay? So, which leads me to the next question. What actions are we going to take this year? What aspects of self do we need to look at? What function does the self have in this society? What is your purpose here? What are you, the individual, doing as a part of the whole? The Tower card comes to mind in these times, and 5 is change. It is entropy. I am a 5 life path. This is what I've come to master in this life. And thankfully, because of that, I think that this year, for me at least, as chaotic as it might be, with the Tower card coming to mind, this is a good thing. Even if, there's no way to say what's going to happen this year, but definitely that ivory tower needs to be shaken so violently that we finally move forward, where we can finally have the change that we need. So this is an opportunity for a new vision. This is amazing, but it's also chaos. And what have we seen with the human race? With change historically? The power structure doesn't want change. Surprise. And the thing is that now the power structure that we've had for thousands and thousands of years that still remains here has never been more threatened, has never been more confronted with change than it has now. And so it is like throwing a constant tantrum. It is just going absolutely nuts. That's why all this very strange stuff is happening. We're seeing, we here in America, we have concentration camps. We have children in cages. We have immigrant children in cages right now. We have unauthorized hysterectomies happening on immigrant women. We are seeing people going into Congress, trying to go back to our old ways of having women as property, gaining control of bodies. We really are just bodies to this power structure. That's something that needs to be discussed too right now, okay? We are just bodies. Aside from like the overbearing patriarchy trying to gain control of women who are naturally creators, and this is threatening to them. Aside from that, we are all, even men and whoever you are, we're all just bodies to this system. We are slaves on consignment to this insanity, much like the song Aloha Keakua, recommend it. Very powerful song for a time like now, that's for sure. Maybe I'll leave the link in the description. Hopefully I remember, but you guys probably know it. It's very popular. Anyway, we are bodies on consignment. Interestingly enough, the number 5 is associated with the physical body. You know, think the 5 senses, or like the human body has 5 points on it. Something to consider for this year. How will our bodies, like our actual physical bodies, play into this scenario with our 5 senses? It is going to be very interesting watching how things progress and what this could possibly mean for this year. But I wrote here that whatever happens in this 5 year, it's an opportunity to establish a new vision, okay? On the flip side of this, within the chaos, it can be just, unfortunately, more chaos, corruption, and carnage. We are looking at a potential war here. I mean, we have already dissolved into a civil war, and it could just get more into this, guys. And but it's up to us. And we now vote with our money, our voices, and our daily actions. This idea of democracy, I've never understood it, because in my 26 years of life on this planet, I've never seen democracy here in America. That doesn't mean it never existed here, but I've never seen it. There has been no democracy. We've had a corporatocracy, we've had a power structure, we've had this fallacy of an American dream, which wasn't real, all while our human rights have been very slowly taken away one by one. It's up to us. We vote with our voices, with our actions, with our money, this year and forever and always. Moving away from this a little bit, there were some things that I guess channeled. That's also not the right word for this, but like, you know, when I'm kind of like in a meditative state, especially like when I'm walking, these things come to mind. And this year I had this kind of, I guess you could say, even automatic writing of the next year based on where we are in this year. And I wrote it kind of as a journal entry, and I'm going to just read it verbatim to you right now. I remember being free, boundless from the chaos of a schedule. I remember experiencing the profound, the places I went to when reaching out into the expanse of the horizon or deep within the microcosm of a plant. Its chloroplasts vibrating with the force of photons, what I could only feel then, but know the mechanism of now. When we were young, we were free to find ourselves. The mind and the soul wandered, and with it we brought our bodies. Not the other way around, as we do now. Do you remember that? Have we forgotten how to bring our bodies towards what is calling us? They're now on consignment to the modern machine. Bodies on consignment, return them to the circus. But what is the purpose? That is a quote from Aloha Ke Akua, the song. Check it out. We can break free from the machine because we didn't come here like this. We already know how to do it because we've already done it. It just takes a daily commitment to life. Choose life. And 5 is the adventure. It is about freedom. And this is my 5 life path wisdom on freedom. This year is about freedom. And yeah, then I kind of like wrote, I guess, a reaction to this journal entry that I wrote, and I talked about how, like, you know, there's just so much distortion, and that is what happens when you see people waking up. You just create so much misinformation, and you do everything that you can to convince that person that everyone around them is wrong and you are right, and that feels good, and it feeds that little hungry ego inside them, and they just eat it up, and we find ourselves in this insane world. And you might ask, but Carrie, how can you tell what is right and what is wrong? And that is a very, very difficult thing to answer, because there's just too much going on right now to know the truth at times. But I will say, the thing that you should ask yourself when receiving a piece of information or deciding to do something, anything at all, is this out of compassion? Is there a chance that my belief or what I'm about to do or anything at all could harm someone else or my world? That is where you start. That is how you start sifting through this, as well as, and this should be another video, the affirmation, I know that I don't know. That is how I got to where I am, and I ask myself that every single day. I know that I don't know. You will notice a lot of people who are so sure of themselves, so certain of every single thing, usually are not acting out of compassion, and they don't realize what they're unaware of. And this is the level of consciousness that we need to look at and finally move through in order to get to this place of freedom. I've never been so certain about a year before, and I'm telling you, it's just like this anyone who's a 5 life path here probably kind of gets the gist of what I'm saying, because it's like this has been our life, is looking at illusions, eliminating them, cutting them off, trying to find like, what is my purpose, realizing what freedom is, what it actually is, what it means to be sovereign, and what that doesn't look like. And here we have this complex atmosphere within this, encased in what is compassion. And this is just something that you guys need to think about. And it's going to be a year of processing this as well. So moving forward, I also wrote this another piece of insight on the energy of 5 that is applicable to this year. And I wrote it in a journal that I forgot to bring with me here. So hold on one second. I'm going to go get that and read it to you. So this is something that I wrote in a little ideas journal that I have here, just kind of like little musings and little streams of consciousness. And this is a series that I started, or that I would like to continue, called Lessons from the Ocean. And this is also something that I read to my Patreon supporters, those who are signed up for the monthly readings. And this is a great time to start, especially in January for the new year. So if you're interested in supporting this channel or in any way, or signing up for those monthly videos, please check out the links in the description. But I digress. Let me read this little paragraph for you guys. Lessons from the Ocean, Part 1. Run towards the wave. This is like combining the two sayings, go with the flow, and the only way out is through. Resisting the ocean is vain. You are not bigger than the ocean. When you are in the water, you are the ocean. Trying to escape a wave will put you in a position for it to pick you up and throw you around in its circular motion over and over again. You must instead run towards the wave and dive into it. Life is also like this. You are not bigger than life. You are life. And it will move through you, with you, sometimes barreling at you. You cannot resist, but instead run towards it. Dive deep into it with all your strength, and perhaps even learn how to surf. If not, life will constantly knock you down and keep you in the foamy shallows where the waves are always crashing, while everyone else is swimming, living, enjoying their time in the sun. So the 5-year, especially now, is about learning how to surf in this chaos and commotion. When you resist it, like when you're in the ocean and a big wave is coming at you, it leaves you idle. It gives this powerful thing, which is just going to change no matter what, no matter how uncomfortable it is. It gives it you give it your power, basically, and it'll just pick you up and throw you down. And it will always be like that until you surrender to change, just like my repeating 5 video. And this just happens to be conveyed through the analogy of the ocean, because I grew up around the ocean, and it is my biggest teacher always and forever. And that is what I have to say about that. And before wrapping up this video, I will say, I think just like a couple of wrapping up ideas or things to consider, things that might be relevant this year. I think channeling Kali Ma, or inviting Kali Ma into your space would be a great idea, as she is the destroyer of illusions and many things. Very, very interesting deity. I recommend looking into her. She is relevant to this time. This is about learning how to adapt, guys. This is about learning how to adapt to change if you don't like change. The more that you surrender to this, the better, whatever is going to happen. And last but not least, 5 is about experiencing life. It is about the 5 senses. It's about, when you have a glass of wine, not just like having that wine as a crutch, but like really experiencing the wine and the cheese and the dips and the going outside and feeling the sun on your face and the wind in your hair and smelling the fresh air and the way that the earth smells after it rains and the salt air by the ocean, and feeling even textures, the texture of a soft blanket and a warm cup of hot cocoa on Christmas Eve. This is also the 5. So do what you can to get back into your body. Try not to escape. Don't just go into the ethers and never come back. We're supposed to be in our bodies actively now, even through the hard parts. And I wrote here that the hope is new mobility, positive change, and God, the revolution, I hope. I am ready for some kind of step into this revolution that we've been demanding for decades, where we finally get our basic human rights and are able to do something other than worry about how we're going to survive on this divine planet when there is so much to experience in this place other than this constant story that we always have. Did I say everything I needed to say? I hope so. I guess I could always make another video. Let me know how you guys are doing in the comments. Let me know what you feel next year is going to bring, either for yourself or for all of us. There's just so much going on right now, and I definitely look at other things other than numerology. I look at, I follow astrologers. I follow tarot card readers. There's multiple ways to look at this situation going on right now. So, look at all of them and let me know what you guys think. Also, another thing that I talk about in my monthly readings is what year you're going through, which is going to be obviously very unique to yourself. And that would be something to look at as well. And like I said, everything is in the description if you need it. Let me know if you guys have any questions. I'm doing Vlogmas this year, so stay tuned and let me know if there's any vlogs that you guys would like to see. And take requested videos. That's something I also forget to say, as well as videos that are through a donation service. So if you have a very specific question about yourself, you want to know something about compatibility with you and another person, you want to know why do I keep seeing this very specific number sequence, that would be along the lines of my new donation service where you can just Venmo me and I make you a personal video regarding that question. So thank you all so much for watching. This is a tricky time to be alive, and yet what a time to be alive, guys. What a time to be experiencing this incredible human story, which, yes, is exhausting, but we have so much to gain from it. We have so much to experience and learn, from it. And I think I'm starting to lose my voice, so I'm gonna go now. Thank you again. I hope you're all okay. I think about you guys all the time. And take care. See you soon.